Welcome back to Senior Benefits Insider. I'm really glad you're here with me today. Take a moment, get comfortable, maybe pour yourself a cup of coffee or tea, and let's talk this through together calmly, clearly, and honestly. I know how overwhelming financial news can feel, especially when headlines move fast and answers feel hard to find. My goal here is always to slow things down, cut through the noise, and help you understand what actually matters for your life and your peace of mind. Now let me ask you something that I know has been on a lot of minds lately. Is President Trump really sending out a stimulus check by Christmas? Or is this just another headline that sounds hopeful but ends up leaving seniors confused, frustrated, or disappointed? Over the past few weeks, I've seen posts, short clips, and comments spreading rapidly online, all claiming that a $2,000 stimulus payment is coming very soon. Some people are saying it's already starting this month. Others are saying it's guaranteed. And many seniors have been asking the same simple but incredibly important question. Is this real, or is something being misunderstood? Today, I want to slow everything down and walk through what's actually happening, without hype, without fear, and without pushing false hope. My name is James, and for more than 10 years, I've helped American seniors protect their savings, understand government benefits, and make confident financial decisions after 60. I've sat at kitchen tables, talked with retirees on fixed incomes, and listened to people who are doing everything right but still feeling squeezed. I know how stressful it can feel when money news keeps changing, especially when you're relying on Social Security or a pension to cover rising costs. So let's take a deep breath together and separate facts from rumors, because the truth matters when it comes to your financial security. The reason this stimulus conversation has come back so strongly right now isn't random, and it's not hard to understand. Seniors across the country are feeling the pressure. Grocery bills are noticeably higher than they were just a couple of years ago. Utility costs haven't come back down the way many hoped they would. Prescription prices still feel unpredictable. And for many retirees, Social Security checks simply haven't kept up with the true cost of everyday life. When inflation keeps moving forward, people on fixed incomes feel it first and feel it hardest. That's why seniors are right at the center of this conversation again. This isn't really about politics as much as it is about reality. When enough people are struggling to stretch the same monthly check across higher prices, leaders start paying attention. Over the past several months, there have been public discussions and statements suggesting that some form of stimulus could return. At first, the amounts being mentioned were smaller. Then the numbers grew. Eventually, the idea of a $2,000 stimulus payment began circulating widely, especially tied to discussions around tariffs and government revenue. Headlines moved fast. Social media moved even faster. And before long, many seniors were left wondering if money might actually show up in their mailbox before the holidays. That uncertainty can be exhausting. It's hard to plan. It's hard to budget. And it's hard to know who to trust when every source seems to say something different. That's why it's important to understand one key point right from the start. Talking about a stimulus is not the same thing as approving a stimulus. A proposal, a comment, or a headline does not automatically mean checks are being sent. As of today, there is no federally approved $2,000 stimulus check scheduled to be mailed out before Christmas. I know that may not be what some people want to hear, but clarity is kinder than false hope. What we are seeing right now is a series of discussions and proposals that suggest stimulus payments could be considered in the future, particularly if inflation and economic pressure continue. Seniors are being talked about because seniors are being affected the most. That recognition matters, even though it hasn't yet turned into action. As we move through this conversation, I want to explain where that $2,000 number came from, why some people believe checks are already going out, why certain states are sending money even though the federal government is not, and what you should realistically plan for right now. One of the biggest sources of confusion is this idea that checks are already starting this month. Many seniors have asked me, if there's no federal approval yet, why do people keep saying payments are happening right now? That's a very fair question. What's happening is that several different types of payments are being discussed at the same time, and they're getting blended together into one unclear message. As of today, there is no nationwide federal program approved to send $2,000 stimulus checks, and there is no official federal payment schedule tied to this month. If a federal stimulus were truly starting now, it would require Congress to pass a law and the President to sign it, with clear eligibility rules and a timeline announced by the Treasury Department. That has not happened. So if you've been checking your bank account every morning or watching the mail closely, please know that you haven't missed anything. There is no federal check quietly going out behind the scenes. What is happening, and this is where things get mixed up, is that some states have already begun sending their own relief payments. These are not federal stimulus checks. They are state-level programs funded by state budgets, surplus revenues, or specific relief efforts tied to inflation, property taxes, or cost of living adjustments. When people hear that checks are going out somewhere, it's easy to assume it's federal. But in reality, it may only be happening in certain states and only for certain groups. One state might send a few $100s to qualifying seniors. Another might offer a rebate connected to property taxes or utility costs. None of that automatically means a federal $2,000 check is coming. It simply means some states are trying to help residents cope with higher costs using resources they already control. This distinction is incredibly important, because planning your finances around a federal payment that hasn't been approved can create unnecessary stress and disappointment. Another question I hear all the time is who would qualify if a federal stimulus were approved later. While nothing is final, history gives us some clues. Any future federal stimulus would likely focus on low and middle-income Americans, especially seniors living on fixed incomes. That typically includes people receiving Social Security retirement benefits, Social Security disability, and possibly SSI. Income limits would almost certainly apply, meaning higher income retirees would probably not qualify. The goal would be relief for those most affected by inflation, not blanket payments to everyone. It's also very possible that eligibility would depend on tax filing status or household income from the previous year, just as we've seen before. Until Congress actually votes and a law is signed, these details remain uncertain. And that uncertainty is exactly why it's so important not to rely on social media clips or dramatic headlines alone. I also want to gently emphasize something that's especially important for seniors. Please be very careful about anyone who claims they can help you claim a stimulus early, speed it up, or secure your payment for a fee. Whenever stimulus talk increases, scams increase right along with it. Government payments do not require sign-ups through private websites, phone calls asking for personal information, or upfront fees. If a legitimate federal stimulus is approved, the information will come directly from official government sources, and the process will be straightforward. Now let's talk about why this stimulus discussion hasn't gone away, even though nothing has been approved yet. One major reason is pressure. When inflation stays high for a long period of time, people speak up, and leaders are forced to respond. Seniors vote in high numbers, and lawmakers pay attention to how rising costs are affecting retirees. Many older Americans are cutting back on essentials, delaying medical care, or dipping into savings just to make ends meet. That reality is hard to ignore. Another reason stimulus talk continues is timing. Political cycles matter. When elections approach, economic concerns like affordability, inflation, and retirement security move to the center of the conversation. Talking about relief becomes a way to signal that those concerns are being heard. That doesn't guarantee action, but it explains why the idea keeps resurfacing. There's also a legal issue that many headlines don't fully explain. One of the ideas behind the proposed $2,000 stimulus involves using revenue from tariffs. The problem is that those tariffs are currently being challenged in court, and the issue has reached the Supreme Court. In simple terms, the court is deciding whether the authority used to impose those tariffs was legal. If the tariffs are ruled invalid, a large amount of money could have to be refunded to businesses that paid it. That makes it very unlikely that the government would commit that same money to stimulus checks until the legal questions are settled. With all of that in mind, the most important question becomes what you should do right now. And the answer is actually simpler than it may feel. First, don't plan your monthly expenses around stimulus money that hasn't been officially approved. Base your budget on income you already receive, like Social Security or pensions. If a stimulus eventually comes, treat it as a bonus, not a necessity. That approach protects your peace of mind. Second, stay alert for scams and protect your personal information. And finally, give yourself grace. Money stress is emotional, not just financial. Feeling tired or frustrated by constant uncertainty is completely understandable. What matters is that you're staying informed and making calm decisions. As we wrap up, I want you to remember this. Financial security after 60 isn't built on headlines or promises. It's built on clear information, steady planning, and protecting what you've already worked so hard for. If a federal stimulus is approved, it will be clear, official, and widely announced, and I'll be right here to explain it in plain language. If this conversation helped you feel a little more grounded, please support Senior Benefits Insider by liking this video and subscribing. It truly helps more seniors find calm, trustworthy information.